Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the SOLIDWORKS electrical webinar on how to design panels. In 30 minutes, well, we're doing it in 30 minutes today. So I'm your host, Sanu Warrior. I'm the electrical product manager at Javelin, and I'm going to be running through some of the examples here. We're going to keep it very simple. If you have any in-depth questions, we can definitely answer that in a more mostly one-on-one session. Or if there are other requests for webinars later to go in more detail, we can definitely arrange that. So for the agenda, we'll run through a very quick Javelin update, what we heard from customer sections, and how did we help demonstration and next steps. We're going to keep the slide deck pretty small, so let's get right into it. We have Javelin Technologies, of course. You all know us. I'm sure some of our customers have joined us, and some people who are looking at learning about SOLIDWORKS Electrical today. Offices across the country, of course, and what does that mean is that we have people all over. Very certified support staff, so feel free to call us, and we can help you out. Our motto, our pillars to stand on: technology, process, and manufacturing. Essentially, we're trying to get all of these together and help you in each area. How we do that and how we can help you do that, I'm not going to get into it today, but part of it today is, of course, technology and people. And we can talk about process and manufacturing later. When we talk about SOLIDWORKS Electrical, some people see it, some people don't. This is what we typically think you should see if you're using the software correctly. If you use macros, when you get to use macros, you should be seeing a good 90% reduction in time it takes to reuse data. If you're doing PLC management, as compared to tools that are not intelligent, you should see about 60% reduction per card. Terminal strips should be very easy to manage and should be a good 90-99% for reporting and stuff like that once you're set up, of course. There are so many reports out of the box, and if you want to set that up, that's great. If you want to customize them, you can. So majority of our customers say they have seen, once they start using it, 40 to 60% improvement in design efficiency about DraftSide, AutoCAD, or any of those tools that don't have any intelligence, where this one has quite a bit. So other areas for consideration when you look at SOLIDWORKS Electrical is library management, team management, and product management. Things to remember or think about: how much time do you spend creating your symbols, parts? How do you manage them? Are you guys working together on a project, or is it a single project that you work on? Areas where you can work with your mechanical team, would it help? Do you do hydraulics, schematics, P&ID? You can do some of that in SOLIDWORKS Electrical. Well, of course, it's the electrical tool first, so the nomenclature is that. But we have a symbology library for P&ID, for hydraulic, for pneumatic, and there are customers out there that are doing that very successfully. So without further ado, let's start talking about what we are talking about here. So the typical design workflow that we recommend for SOLIDWORKS Electrical, to look at it at least, is, and go through a demonstration, is automate tasks. What do we do? How do we do that? PLCs and panels, simplified library management, and of course the automation of reports and documentation. We'll cover very basics of the rest of the sections. We'll get into panel more today, but of course, to design a panel, we do need some schematics. So let's get into the schematic section. I have some pages open, so let's close that. I have a finished project open, so you can take a look at what it is the end product could look like, or starting to look like. So there is an example that I use all the time. You can start doing your schematics, and your cabinet layouts are here. I started some of that, but then thought I'd let it be and work with you guys on that. So let's open up a schematic page and work with that. So the first thing I'll do is put some power lines here to connect to the power. Maybe I'll just start there and go to a macro, so I don't waste time designing today. Go to my macros and maybe drag and drop a motor control section. You get some options when you drag and drop from your macros, which is a great thing to do. So you can decide, hey, do I want the same location or modify the location so we have a new name? Do I want a new cable or the same cable? Do I want a new mark for the part, or do I want a new mark for the terminal strip? You can take a look and control whichever part you like. So you can go next, next, and control that, rename, so on and so forth, or you can just hit finish to accept the default options. I will move that a little bit so we can land that and make those connections. So now that it's made the connections, maybe I should repeat that a few times here. So I can drag and drop this, of course, or I can just do copy paste. Control C, Control V, just the normal stuff. And this is what we're talking about, automation, right? You are, while you're doing this copy paste, just so that we can get some parts to add to our panel and start designing our panel. And you can see that the parts are being updated. The naming is updated. The cable we haven't updated yet, and we will do that because we've said, okay, just leave the cables as it is. And the location information is going to be updated soon enough. So let's take a look at the cables first. So we will take a look at this. Maybe go there and make that automatic. So we have a cable. And one more cable that we have set to manual. And manual is a great option if you guys don't want to manage the cable names separately or whatever it is. It just lets you, doesn't automate that. So you still have the functionality both ways. So now that we have a few parts in here, and we have a terminal strip X1 that goes along and does whatever it needs to, you can take a look at some properties here. So let's take a look at this motor. Maybe I want to edit these properties of that motor here. And this is, again, we're still in the schematic section. So let's say web example 1. And you'll see that those things are updating, and then web 2 maybe. Change some descriptions, web 3. Well, you get the idea. So you can make those changes here. It's easy enough to do. So you can go into properties of a part, or you can do it through the property window here. And they're making more and more use of the property window. For example, if I wanted to say motor control as a description of this page, I could do that, and you will see that change. Where is that? So description, motor control, I didn't say yes. And you'll see that change over there. So one, information changed anywhere is changed everywhere. Let's do some other housekeeping stuff, like, hey, numbered the new wires in there. So my wires are numbered uniquely based on where it's located. So 0406 is page 4, line 6, and then 1, 2, 3, however you want to take that. And everything is updated. So we have some things to play with here for our panel. One more macro that I'd probably pull in is maybe this one. Just a couple of PLCs in there. I'm going to say create new, keep existing, and leave it at that. So we have some lights and stuff to put in as well. So now that we have a bunch of parts, let's get into the panel side of it. So you can do two types of panels, and people who use SOLIDWORKS Electrical can know that already. You have 2D panel and 3D panel. So 2D is in SOLIDWORKS Electrical, the standalone package, and this is the standalone package you're looking at. The 3D panel can be done inside 3D. So you can go into SOLIDWORKS, and if you have SOLIDWORKS Electrical 3D, then you have this information as well. And you're looking at the same project information, whatever the up-to-date information is. All the parts that you add are available in 3D as well. So as we are doing the stuff in 2D, it's getting available in 3D as well. Now you can make these independently. I just took a part in a panel and just added that. So I created an assembly for a panel, and I've added that in for the ease of use today. So let's do 2D first, and you have a nicely laid out tree here so that you can do some panel layout. What does that mean? That means that all the parts that you added in your schematic are here, and you can hide ones that you've placed already by doing this checkbox. If you, so you know, things like that. If you want you know, snaps on or off, you can do that, and you can even place multiple items. So for example, if I want to place all of them, I can select one and place them all for me. And the gap is, you can configure it. So if I wanted to place these, for example, I can decide, okay, maybe this one I need 1/2 inch spacing horizontally. And there's that. So you can start placing these, and you have to refresh this checkbox, and now the number of parts that you have to place are drastically reduced. You have a transformer in there if you wanted to put in just a couple of parts that I put in there. Maybe a PLC part. Maybe this is an automated PLC section there. And to go on the door, maybe I want to insert some lights. So very quickly you can start designing this. Of course, these parts that we are adding here, so let's delete this one, let's say. And uncheck that so you can see all the parts that are there. This is, let's do that. So this is a part that we haven't added. So this is basically a part number, a wiring duct. So I can say insert as a duct, and it could come in as a pretty big duct based on what the manufacturing part comes with. You can click and size it for yourself. So it's just a drag and drop, so you can see those two moving. Maybe I want it about this size and place it there. And of course, you can manage the color however you want to, but essentially that's how you put a duct. Same thing with the rail. You can insert a cabinet the same way. Very easy to do. When you're ready to do some dimensioning, and mind you, this is trying to fit on a page, so we are running in a scale of 1:10. So these are to scale, just 1:10 scale. That's all. When you're ready to do some dimensioning, maybe you want to do it something like that, where that's the size of the panel. You can do some different types of dimensioning as well as you go along. So that's on the 2D side of it. And as you're doing all this, of course, we did our schematic, we did our wire numbering, we added some part numbers in the macro itself. Just as an example on how you save this macro, so if you do this all the time, you can select this, drag and drop it, and click OK. And now that macro is available. So if you wanted to add more parts, just wanted to make sure that you guys understand how the macros are done. So it's a very easy way to use circuits that you have designed before, and from there you can start designing your panel fairly quickly. Of course, we are getting into 3D next, but before that I just wanted to point out that as we are doing all this, the reports are being updated. Your enclosure is in here, all the parts that you would need are in there. Any wires that you have are in here as well. Just the cables that you've added, and you can add more reports. So these reports are there, and you can generate them at any point in time. You can add some filters to it if you wanted to. If I wanted to add a filter saying, okay, only give me a field that has 3D parts, so you can do that. Or you can go and look for user data or manufacturing info or location, so on and so forth. You can use filters to make reports that are custom fairly quickly. So how is this different than in 3D? It's not really. When you do the 2D, it's very similar. What you get in excess is the ability to do multiple views of the drawing of a panel. You can do some design data that is made for building that panel. much easier and much better than how you would do it in 2D. You know, how you build a panel, how you can manage the panel. So I'll hide the stuff that's already inserted, so it's a smaller list for us in 3D. And how do you do it? Fairly similar. You click insert and it goes and inserts that. When you set up a part, and maybe I should make it a little brighter so you can see it, reduce that real view thing. When you set up a part, there is in the electrical, when you do have electrical 3D, you get this new toolbar that lets you go through a component wizard. So basically what the component wizard does is lets you select and define which sides they are. So like mating side, so this is the right, top, bottom faces, and where it mates to the rail. If it's a rail mounted component, where you can figure out which rail it is, if it mates to a door, you can set up connection points if you want to, and then your part is set up. So it's a very easy step-by-step process to convert a part. Now these are generic parts that SOLIDWORKS has, so I'm not really saying making a new model for each one. If you wanted to, you could, but it is just adding that, and SOLIDWORKS takes care of the sizing for me if it's a generic model. So I have a few in here, so let me insert a few, and like we did before, we can do the same thing. And SOLIDWORKS will give me the option here to say, okay, what's the spacing? So I could say, okay, maybe half an inch here to the right, and it knows the side, so it will go and add that in for me. So again, you don't need to know SOLIDWORKS in depth to be able to use the 3D. It just makes it so much easier to work with it. And it, you know, it's intelligent, so you can move it, and it will keep that spacing for you. Similar thing. If I wanted to insert the PLC module there, I could, and it has, of course, multiple connections, you know, going on the rail, if it's not on the rail, on the back plate, so on and so forth. So let's do some inserts there. Some mate errors on that, so let's go and see what it is. So we leave it at that. Chassis. And maybe the terminals. We have about 16 terminals here. Insert terminals. And maybe we won't add any spacing to it and just add those terminals in there for you. So again, you can start, you know, we've made a panel fairly quickly. You add the terminals up here. We generally add it there so that you can have wires and conduits coming in, and, you know, easy access to it, of course. In this case, lights are great examples of parts that really make a difference in 3D. So here I have a light which is set up so that it can drill to a door. I'm going to hit tab so it can reverse. And what these are is smart parts, so which have features like I can say, okay, this is the drill direction that I want to, and it'll do a cut based on the light you add. So whenever this part is, if you open that part up now, there will be a hole in there, and you'll do that for each part. So it's easy to figure out what it is once you have the part there. I'm going to leave that for now, discard the change in the assembly, and leave it at that. And I can do that for multiple lights, so insert as many as I want, and leave it at that. Whenever you're ready, of course, in the panel, you can do wiring. It's not necessary to do the wiring. I have not set this up to do wiring, but if you don't set it up, like if you don't have sketch points and stuff like that, it'll do some of the wiring still. So if you, select a bunch of parts and you say route wires, it's going to take information from your SOLIDWORKS schematic, and it will. Let's just go ahead and do that, see what happens. I'm assuming the wiring is going to be a little haphazard, but it will go through. So this one, of course, it doesn't know how to route that. There is no path here for it. but you'll see that the rest is being routed through the points, and we haven't set up anything here, but it will still do the routing for you, even without any setup. Just added the parts and no setup required. For these parts, what I would suggest is there is something called create a routing path. So you would say, okay, create a sketch, and you want to start creating essentially a 3D sketch. So, maybe I want to start from here and do that. So that if that space is enough, it will know, okay, I should follow that route and then jump on off that route. So again, fairly simple to do. So if you kind of select everything again and route it, we'll see what happens on the route itself. So if I say okay, it'll try to route those again, and you can see it's fairly fast to do. No, it still doesn't like the fact that we don't have any route that is exactly going there, but we can fix that very easily. I can show a different example for that. So coming down on that, so once you have this, of course, because you've routed the wires, you have a better length. So all of it is updated everywhere. So if I look at the line style, you'll see that all of these which have been routed have length. Some of them which we didn't add or didn't connect have 0 length. It still has the wire number and everything in the reports. You have the length here, and this is true for cabling and harnessing as well. But on just the wiring side of it, you can do that, and that's 3D. So very quick and easy to do the design work and get going. And that's what we're talking about is, the automation of wire numbering and device tagging, sheet numbering, terminal layout, so on and so forth, and getting into the 3D, the library, and the documentation. Very easy to generate that. You can do multiple reports on how things are done, and so on and so forth. It is a complete solution. And we can talk about how different parts of it gel together. Today what we've seen is how you can do panel in 2D and 3D fairly quickly. You have some other features and benefits where now SOLIDWORKS can be, if you have the latest SOLIDWORKS and DraftSide Professional, and if you have standard and you're a customer, let us know. We can help you out in figuring out how we can get you the professional. But with DraftSide Professional, SOLIDWORKS is now including a link to SOLIDWORKS Electrical. So if I open up that project where multiple people can work at the same time, right? I should close that page there so I can show you what I mean. Panel example. Panel. So it is open there, but for some reason this won't close. Okay, there it is. So you can open it in DraftSide if you want to do some final touches. So people who are used to AutoCAD or DraftSide still want some of the panel stuff like dimensioning, or maybe you want to take a small view of it and expand it here. Those are drafting things. You don't really need intelligence for that. You can do that in here. Mind you, when you do that, you have to save it in paper space, so you do that at the end of it so you can have it in paper space. SOLIDWORKS only has one model space and it doesn't share that. But you can make changes here and have that update on the other side. So very quick. So what I'll do as an example here is maybe do a dimension for this and save that. So close it there and have that update over here. So again, multiple people working together in the same project, and you can even do that from your DraftSide if you have SOLIDWORKS Electrical Schematic and DraftSide Professional. If you don't, as I said, you can give me a call and we can discuss that. We haven't covered a lot of stuff, of course. There is in-depth information about various things in SOLIDWORKS, and we haven't seen even 30% of it, but I hope this was a good use of your time to see what it is that we're covering. And any next steps in Q&A? First of all, an announcement. We are having a What's New 2017 session. It's coming soon. And if you would like to join us, that would be great. We're doing live broadcast, and we'll be covering quite a few things that are new in SOLIDWORKS. We can review your design and manufacturing process. As a service, we provide that. Quite a bit of industry experience between the team. And if you have any questions on ROI or implementation or training, definitely ask us. Do visit our blog, though. I have a poll question for you as well, but do visit our blog. We have quite a few blogs that come out, and we talk about a lot of things. It is not, of course, complete without you guys reading it. So it would be great if you could join us on the blog, and we have the best blog out there for SOLIDWORKS or any related projects. Thank you for joining us, and please join us again. We look forward to working with you soon.